Why did you get into the AI governance conversation? Because I can imagine it's not been straightforward.
I've been doing all that governance work with the school anyway, because when I arrived, the school I'm at now wasn't a British school. And I joined at the point where they decided that they were going to transition from the curriculum and school that they were onto being a British school. So I came in and it was basically policy development. And I know policy and culture is a separate sometimes, but it was about, we could build these policies up based on my experience in the UK from zero. I always want to ground policy in reality, because you can say something, but then you actually got to live it as well. So always working with staff and development. And then obviously knowing that even though the EU AI keeps getting pushed, little key parts keep getting pushed back a little bit because of certain delays and things like that. I think the only way you get your head around it is by having conversations and trying to grapple with it. And I'm fortunate enough now that I met a really nice lawyer from UiPath Foundation at AIDucation last year. I've met a few nice lawyers that won't charge me an arm and a leg and will have an open conversation with me. A deep fake could be like any object, so that could be real. So I said, okay, I've got to tell my teacher to generate an AI picture of an apple. Does that classify now as a deep fake? And under the new definition from speaking to these lawyers, it pretty much does. So I've got to tell them now to label pretty much everything, apart from if it's like a cartoon or something like that. So it's always kind of trying to keep up with these things, not being caught off guard by them, and then trying to have conversations with people who know a little bit more than me. We work with our DPO and our legal team all the time as well. I'll just have an open conversation with them and say thank you, and then promote wherever their work they're doing and things like that and pay it back. But it's just trying to explore it and trying to get grips with it.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Edufuturists podcast. It's just me representing the Edufuturists today, but we are pleased that we've got a guest in the studio. A guest that will be familiar to many of our listeners. He's a former winner of one of our Edufuturists awards, the AI Pioneer. And in the background, if you are watching this, you'll be able to see a latest award, which we're definitely going to talk about in today's session, in today's podcast. So we are, just as a few little announcements, for those of you again who are watching, this came out into the world. I'm holding a copy of Pick and Mix Education, which is our latest book, which is pretty special to be out in the world and has been received really well. Yeah, it's quite nice to have that physically in our hands after blood, sweat and tears that went into it. So thank you to those people who have already grabbed a copy, and if not, the link is in the show notes. But yeah, we also had Edufuturist Uprising in Liverpool, which our guest Matthew was at, and as were loads and loads of people from across the UK and beyond. Even with the chocolate train tracks in the UK, and we get a little bit of heat and therefore the trains can't move, and nearly 100 people told us that they couldn't be with us, sadly, due to trains, planes, automobiles, whatever else it was. But it doesn't matter, because the people that were in the space absolutely loved it. It was a brilliant night, probably our best one yet. Even if it was nice and warm, we had a really good time. Anyway, enough about indulging in that. I want to speak to our guest. So we are really pleased. Somebody who has become a friend of mine. We've met a few times. I've been out over to Romania, where he is, and also he's been supporting lots and lots of us with AI primarily, but lots of other things. But Matthew, tell us a little bit about your background and what drew you to the work that you're doing currently.
Me, I started teaching late, I think 2000. I say late, I can't remember. I was trying to figure out how long I've been teaching the other day. It was 2011 I started teaching. So I'd just been doing random jobs. I've been floating around. And then a friend of mine asked me if we'd teach a bit of media studies, because I did media at university. There was a group of kids who'd done GCSE. I hadn't done GCSE media studies, but wanted to do it at the sixth form. And he was doing some projects with them at the time. So I took a week off work, went to teach that, absolutely loved teaching and working with students. So basically apply for a PGC and quit my job. So I started teacher training. And at that time, the only thing I could teach, because I kind of enjoyed teaching more than subject stuff. And I was like, what do I do? And it was media, and it was you could probably do English because there's a bit of an overlap. And I was like, I'm super dyslexic, so that's not going to work. And then, so I ended up teaching IT because I had enough of an overlap back in the day with the media degree I was doing, media editing and stuff like that. which is swung back around to the work I'm doing now with Canva and video editing and the design work, which is really cool to come back to that. And then, yeah, so then they pushed me through a master's in computer science, which was hilarious, learning how to code like age 27 for the first time, going from nothing. Then I started teaching IT where we didn't have to code for many, many years. Then computer science came along. So that dusted off Python, started teaching that. And then I met my wonderful wife, who's half Romanian. So we'd already been across to Romania a few times. And yeah, so we moved here. I keep saying 8 years ago, but someone told me it's actually been 9 years. So time flies when you're having fun and 2 kids and don't sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And so now I'm the assistant school director. Mainly, I teach computer science. I teach this year I had a heady mix of year 7 and year 13. So Friday mornings, I'd like double year 13, year 7, then back to year 13. So those poor year 7s in the middle had such a crazy time where I hadn't quite like pitched back down after 2 hours of teaching A level. So their minds were like blown. And I was like, no, pitch lower, pitch lower, pitch lower. And next year I'm back to A level, but I support all our heads of department. My main job is teaching and learning across all our subjects in the secondary and helping with BSO. That's like the compliance and being a British school. So a lot of policy work, a lot of teaching and learning, and now a lot of AI that I've forced upon myself.
yeah, and obviously many of our listeners who will be familiar with you will have seen the great work that you've been doing around AI, and we're going to dig into a lot of that. In terms of how, obviously being a computer science teacher, but also being a dad, being a school leader, being responsible for governance and responsibility in that space. You've looked at it with lots of different lenses, which is, I think, there's some people that just do, we're just teaching and learning, or we're just creativity, or we're just governance. I think you've got a real blend and breadth of perspective in that space, and so you are in Bucharest. By the way, I say Bucharest. Some people are like, is it not Bucharest? And I was like, no, it's Bucharest. I've been plenty of times and people call it Bucharest, right? I am right in saying that, aren't I?
It's Bucharest, really, but yeah, whatever. It's on the
Okay,
spectrum.
okay,
Bucharest.
there we go.
'Cause
Well, at least the first part of it's right.
there's an I in the end, and I kept saying Bucharesti when I first arrived because just read it as an English person. But then there's all the I's are silent. You learn very quickly, so I stopped. Dropped it very quick.
Okay,
But there's like
okay.
there's like almost like in Turkish, because a lot of Turkish students at my old school in London, there's that C with the squiggle underneath. So it's got a bit of a like like they have to follow one.
Okay. Okay. So, and by the way, like I say, I've been out to Bucharest a few times, and listening to Becky, Matthew's wife, just flick between speaking fluent English and then fluent Romanian, then fluent English. Like it's a marvel to it's
The weird thing to me though is he's got a thing, and you see this with people who speak multiple languages. I find when they switch languages, their personality changes a little bit. Like she becomes a lot more like Latin and blunt when she speaks Romanian. And then like she
right.
speaks back to English, she adds all she very much speaks in the like say Queen's or King's English. She's very like
Yeah.
speaks a very to me
Yeah.
a very posh form of English.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's all like proper, and then she suddenly gets really like in your face and switches back to being like nice and gentle again. It's really like it's really hard to track sometimes.
Yes. Okay. So hopefully, when you're in trouble, she speaks to you in English rather than Romanian.
Well, it'd be better if she spoke Romanian because terribly, I only know a little bit, enough to get by. So if you did tell me off in Romanian, probably better for me because I wouldn't know I wouldn't know what was going on.
Okay. So you mentioned there about and you've talked about working in international school. So obviously you're in a British international school out in Bucharest, the Cambridge School of Bucharest, and obviously there's lots of people that will be listening to this that have never experienced international school, and then there'll be others that's their life. They travel from country to country to country. I know that we've got mutual friends that have done 5, 6, 7 different countries, and it's but always going into a British international school in those spaces. What's it like? And I suppose, yeah, what's it like working in international school, and why in international school?
It's like very similar, but also like very different at the same time. Like you're delivering the same curriculum. You're usually working now in most places about 60% plus British staff. So the vibe and the community that you can build is there, but there's also you've got kids from the host country there, and they bring their own kind of their vibe to the mix as well, how they interact and their cultural behavior as well. It sometimes not coming up against, but working with like the British culture. So you're bringing their culture, they're bringing their culture. And then you've also got the school culture in itself. And I went to a really interesting presentation when I first started teaching internationally. It's about third culture kids. It's like how an international school is really the mixed culture of like the teachers, the students that are nationally there, and then also like the school itself has a culture. So there's that weird heady mix when you go internationally. I think lots of them are quite leaner and smaller. Like our SLT is quite small. There's only about 6 or 7 of us for a school of almost like 1,500 kids now. Yeah, 6 So my daughter's picked that up. I'm not very happy about it. And yeah, so we're quite lean. And that means, like, as you said at the beginning, I've done quite a lot of stuff because there was only 300 kids when I first started. So everyone was doing a bit of everything. And it's got to the point now where we all need to do a little bit less of everything just because the school's got so big. But that's kind of I think internationally, I think you can find a place you really like and bed down and stay there for many years. Like we've done. We bought a house, had 2 kids, got 2 cats, etc. And or you can do what we have at our school, which is people come for 2 years, or usually 2 or 4 years, depending on what they feel like doing. Then they move somewhere else, and they move somewhere else. So we've got a whole host of like young staff who are like early 20s, who tend to come for 2 or 4 years and move on. And then you've got a load of old school people like me who've been there for 9 years. We've got some people 10, 15 years. And I think that as a school, it's quite hard to maintain the culture, and that you have to do that work on community and culture quite a lot, because you might only have a handful of fixed staff. And I know in like other countries, the turnover of staff is a little bit more, like every 2 years people move around. So as a school, you have to work, I would say work a little bit harder than I had to in the UK, because you're almost in the state school culture and you're Tottenham's culture and in England's culture, and you've got all the like the flow of that. Whereas at school, you really have to work a lot more on that because your staff might change, but your kids will stay the same. So you've kind of got to keep that consistency in the curriculum, that consistency in how people feel welcomed when they come in and know what we're about very quickly, because you've almost got a week to say, this is who we are as a school. This is how we do it here. Go. Even though you might have worked other places all over the world. So it's quite tricky to get that down. And I would say we're almost there, and it's better than it. I'm not saying never been terrible, but I think it's something that we came up against it where the school grew by 400 students during lockdown. So they grew 400 students online. And the good thing is when we had our first inspection when we reopened, they were like, we can't tell which kids have been here since nursery and which ones joined 2 years ago. And that has been a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I
that's
can't
what you
imagine.
want. You want the kids to, and sometimes we are a bit rigid, and some people want to change the curriculum every year. They come in with a great idea. But we have to be mindful of those kids almost have to have the same diet every year. So it's a lot more incremental change and a lot more kind of steadiness. And sometimes it's hard as someone coming in to see that. But there's a reason we have to do it a little bit more slow and steady, because we just got to be a bit more consistent, because we just have to keep that bedrock of who we are as a school and what we want for our kids. Like that has to be solid at all times.
Yeah, and I suppose with that, with it being an international school as well, there'll be transients of young people whose parents travel jobs and whatnot. But also I really like what you talked about there in terms of the focus on culture. And you know that I'm a big proponent in that, and on the podcast we talk about that. You can't policy or strategize your way out of a bad culture. And like I said, I've been over to the Cambridge School in Bucharest I think
I think
5 times.
we're almost at the point where we need to apply for a visa for you, I think.
Yeah. And it's been wonderful. And I got chance to work with students and staff, as well as being at the conference that we'll talk about in a moment. The culture there is one of achievement is important and drive, but also innovation and there's a success culture and a collaboration with parents and employers, and I think that's intentional. And as somebody who comes from the outside, you've been there 9 years. You probably take that stuff for granted. It doesn't happen in lots of schools, and it doesn't happen in lots of international schools, that level of collaboration and that drive. So I think kudos into that space. And by the way, if anybody hasn't seen some of the developments that are happening at the Cambridge School of Bucharest, like it is insane, like new theatres and sports facilities. It's mint. Like
Oh, it's going
I
to be
just
mad
saw,
next year. It's going to be mad for us SLT, number one. It's going to be mad because at first in August, we've got our new sports facilities, a new cafeteria, which essentially means we're running the cafeteria in what should have been classroom space. So we've now moved the cafeteria out. You met there when you've come
yeah,
for the conference. So that's now going to go over to the building. So that's now going to be 4 new science labs, which is fantastic that because we can do loads more cool science experiments, and that's all on the ground floor. So they can kind of easily get outside to do stuff because we're quite near the forest. So we've got quite cool grounds with like loads of nature around. So yeah, and then in January we move all the art. We rejigged it last minute. I did a walkthrough and I was like, that art room's too small. So we've made the art room bigger. We've made one of the IT rooms into a great big STEM lab now in that new building as well. We've got a huge 350 seat theater. Weirdly, they put a swimming pool under the theatre, so I don't know who's doing soundproofing, but they're going to have a hard job over the summer. But yeah, so we've got loads of cool stuff. I think they've added a climbing wall on the side of it now. So every time I look at the plans, they've just added something new to it, and it's gonna be it's gonna be really fun. But I'm looking forward to next year because you know what change is like in a school. Like I've got every faith we're doing because our running tracks opened up. I think I sent some
yeah.
pictures around on a group we're in. Like the football pitch finally opened after years of waiting for it. So I started looking at like this really ugly old building, and then that got blown down. So I was looking at an ugly building site for like a year, and then overnight suddenly it became a football pitch, and it was amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool, and I think what I get from that is it seems strategic and not gimmicky, yeah, and it's all great to have all these facilities, and that's not the only be all and end all. But if you've got the culture, leadership, you've got the buy-in and success, you've got the inspection results. And by the way, I know it's not necessarily something that we'll spend a lot of time in, but inspection in international schools is very, very different than
Mm.
the UK Ofsted, and it's like it's not necessarily saying that it's not difficult, because it is difficult and it's tough to get through, but it's a different way to
It's
do it, isn't it?
nudged, in my opinion, because I've been through 3 or 4 of them now. I forget, but it was the closest feel to Ofsted I've ever felt in the recent one.
Oh, okay, right, all right.
And I don't mean that. It's still a lot more helpful than Ofsted. There's still a lot more collaborative, and you don't feel like in international inspections. And I felt this in the UK. And again, my last experience in England was 9 years ago. But it felt like less like they feel like less like they're out to get you and to work with you more, I felt. But it was a lot more of a grilling in the last round than it has been before, I would say. I don't know. And the standards changed, so I think they raised the bar a little bit as well. And we were one of the first new schools to go under the new inspection, so maybe like the calibrating their approach. But it was a lot more intense. Or maybe that felt it because the school grew, so we had more inspectors on site. I think we had 11 inspectors on site. So there's not much you can hide with 11 inspectors.
No,
Like with 2, you can go, look over there, don't look over here. Like with 11
11.
people walking around and going into lessons for like 3 days, which pretty much shifted from asking. We had a good few meetings where they grilled us on stuff, but most of it was in the classrooms with kids. So, but it was like almost 3 days where 11 staff were just in lessons, which you can't hide
No, you
anything.
can't hide.
There's no way you
Can't.
can hide anything.
No, yeah, it's inspection is a tough one, but I'll be polite and I'll be kind, and I won't dig too much into it today, because obviously,
All inspections are stressful because you
yeah, because
want to represent your school how you see it, if you know what I mean. Like you want the best for your school, and there's no school's perfect. Like that's a given. You wouldn't have an SDP for something or a plan if you didn't have anything to work on.
yeah,
You
true.
just go like, we've made it, we've done. But yeah, so it's always stressful, but you can make of it what you will, I think. And it like you stress yourself out a little bit as well when you get to them because you want the best.
Of course you do. If you work hard, you want to get recognised for that, and you always want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I know that me and you are similar in lots of ways, and Steve would have laughed if you were here, in the sense that it's always about okay, that's all right, great. What's next? Okay, what's next?
Well, yeah,
And
people
sometimes,
tell me what I've done well. Are kind of like I'm like, okay, I'm not in a smug way. I'm like, okay, but how could it be better though? Like I
mm,
always want to know what's the next little kind of increment that we can do.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And I suppose that really segues cleverly into how you've gone from being a teacher, assistant school director, teaching in computer science, and then getting into this AI space. As that AI space for you has been personal journeys, and it's also been teaching journeys, but you've also been leading conferences. So before we get into talking about the books and the work that you're doing now, I wondered if you could talk to us about AIDucation and the conference that you've been running. Is it three times you've done it now?
Yeah, so next year will be the fourth time. So
Yep.
2027 will be the fourth year. So the first year was a bit of a baptism of fire because I was like, oh, I'll just do a conference and like September, go to school September. Then, well, we'll just do it in November. It'll be fine. Turns out it wasn't fine. We put that back to March just to give me time to organize everything and realize that selling tickets takes time to figure that out. There's lots of logistical stuff, but over the years, the logistical stuff has become easier, which means the fun stuff can be funner. So I think the first year we started off with 2 keynotes who really earned the money because they just think you guys just did tons of workshops and did keynotes. And then the second year we went a little bit bigger and the feedback was just more workshops. So every year we've tried to bookend the day with some keynotes just to give some key messaging. And the rest of the time has just been hands-on experience. So in every year that workshop section has grown from, I think, like 3 workshops running in parallel. I think last year we had 9 workshops running in parallel 4 times. And that's kind of been the vibe and what everyone really enjoys and everyone wants more of each time. So trying to fit more and more workshops into each time is becoming more and more of the logistical side of it. But and trying to, as the organizer, make it so everyone can have a little bit of everything. So I know if you're speaking, Ben, like who's the best person to go up against Ben, knowing that they can see Ben later. And like it's all that kind of thinking of trying to make sure everyone gets the best experience. And also making sure the speakers have enough people in their workshops. Like I just want everyone, the partners feel like they've had a good time. It's just about making sure that everyone who comes enjoys it. And that's what I think about. If I was a speaker at this event, what would I want out of it? If I was someone coming to this event, what would I want out of it? If I was a partner at the event, what would I want out of it? And I just try to think of it, what would make it the best day for everybody, really, and then stress myself out for 12 months trying to make that happen.
But it's grown year on year, hasn't it? It's got different
Yeah.
people from different countries and brought people together. Like we said, I've been fortunate enough to be able to come to 3 of those already, and being able to do workshops and speak and meet some great people in that space as well. So 2027 is year 4.
Yeah.
Can people book in and stuff yet?
Not yet. I've written up the blurb and the kind of web page is sitting there on the school's back end of the website, but I need to sort out tickets and things like that. So I might email the ticket company next week and get that up and running. But I'll start putting it out there in September when schools reopen. Because no one's going to get SLT approval last week.
No, good. That's a very good point.
So I'll start promoting in September. But we've already got Laura Knight lined up to keynote, and Mr. PICT is going to come over as well. Yourself, Ben?
Yeah.
Coming back again, 4th time running.
Yeah.
And then a load of other cool people who've sent information about workshops, which I need to email them because everyone filled out a form and then they've heard nothing from me. So I realized I'd never emailed them back. So I'm going to email people probably today just to say we'll meet over the next few weeks at maybe early September, and then start putting together the theme of the event and based on what people want to talk about. And yeah, we should be able to go up to 300 people. I think we capped at 187 last year, mainly because that's as many people as we can, I think, legally fit in our assembly hall. But now we've got the theatre, which should be open, so we should be able to go a little bit bigger over there.
Nice. Yeah, go big or go home type thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that 300. But it's we'll share that out. So follow Matthew on LinkedIn and whatnot, and he'll be sharing into there if you are interested in going out into Bucharest. And I would massively recommend it. Last year, by the way, for the first time, and my wife's already said to me, "Is it happening again? Are you going again?" Because last year, for the first time, I brought my wife out. She did some sightseeing on the day of the conference. I did say to her, "You should come to the conference." She's like, "I'm not into education." She's a police officer. She's like, "No chance." So she did some sightseeing, and then on the Sunday we went to Thermae. Is that how I say it?
Thermae, yeah.
Thermae, which is like massive. I think it's Europe's biggest spa, isn't it? Spa resort.
Yeah, it's like just a massive, massive spa with like saunas, swimming pools, indoor pool, outdoor pool. It's amazing. One
of the best days I've had was the day after the conference. It's not part of the conference, but I'm just putting that out there that Bucharest has an incredible spa.
Most years people have come across themselves, and the second year they come across, they bought their wives. The third year they've come across, they bought their families.
Oh, I'm not bringing my kids. I don't like them that much. No, I'm joking. No. Okay, so obviously the conference is highlighting. You've obviously got to meet loads of new people, and you've done training and the other bits that go with that. But you've also released 3 books, and then a 4th one coming the way. Is that right? Is it that way around?
Well,
2 or
I
3?
wrote 2, and
Yeah.
that was the teacher's guide, and that really came out of preparing something for Brilliant Festival. Because that
Okay.
was the first time I was asked to do like a 50-minute keynote, which
Yeah.
is a lot. I was only doing like 20 minutes before. So I thought, I should give people something at the end. So I wrote a guide, and then a few people wanted a physical copy. So that became a book. I just put that on Amazon at cost. And then I wrote a student's guide because I've been doing a lot of work with students in my class. And I kind of seen from them just anecdotally what they were saying and what they were doing and getting feelings from that. So I wrote a guide for students. And then very much later, now we've written a guide for parents. And in between, when I was working on an AI literacy project, because I was coding that with Claude, and every time that would go off for 20 minutes to do something, I was watching like YouTube videos, and I thought it's got to be a more productive way to use this time. So every time it went off and did something, I'd go and do a little bit of writing about AI literacy. So I kind of released that when that platform came out, just as kind of something I'd worked on as it was going. But I've been working on the parents handbook in the background with yourself, I think since maybe October last year, maybe something like
Yeah,
that,
I think it
September,
was.
October. And then it's been stop and start because our schedules were just mad. And then I think every time I started again, so much had changed. I had to go back and almost rewrite most of it.
Yeah.
But I think we got there. And then, so that's just going, that'll be out next month, the 21st of July. So that's already prime for the first time ever. It's already primed on Amazon. I can relax and it'll release. I'm just doing some promos at the moment. So the Kindle, for some reason, will let you pre-order I don't know what I've done wrong with the physical book, but that's just hovering there. So if you want a physical copy, jump on the 21st. But yes, and I think we've written it from 2 perspectives, really. Like I've got 2 young kids and work with students all day at school, and you've got 2 teenagers. So you've chipped in or contributed throughout the book about your take as a parent who's like, I've got it to come, like the phones, the screen argument, the AI. I've got that to come as a father, and you're already living it. So I think your perspective to bookend, like I'm thinking this, and you give me like either a reality check or a contribution, like this
Yeah.
is what it's really like, mate.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's been a real honour, and I think just to kind of, I'll come back to that in a moment, but I think the fact that you've written something for educators because you are an educator, you've written something for students because you work with them all the time, and now you've written something for that demographic that often gets forgotten in education, and we almost expect and the parent school thing. Even though we talk about collaboration, it sometimes feels like we're not always working together for the same thing. It feels like they're making a complaint, or teachers aren't doing what they should be doing, and it goes like that. And actually, from an AI conversation, being able to pull together these perspectives, and you've done a really great job in pulling together what a parent might need to understand. And then I've just thrown 2 pence in at points where how I'm literally living and breathing it with my own kids. And yeah, it is. Interestingly, and I know we've tried really hard to keep it a high level, haven't we? In terms of it's not a this tool, that tool, because by the time
Yeah.
it comes
I think
out, it's
over
going to be
time,
yeah.
so originally I wrote a load of tools, and the tools changed so fast. But I think when I rewrote that part, I was like, it's almost like when I'm telling my kids in computer science, you can't write Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel in the exam. You write a spreadsheet or a word processor. So I've got tried to take a step back and treat it like that. Like there's text generators, multimodal, like a bit more high level. The name of the platform might change, but what they do will fundamentally stay the same, probably get a little bit better, but it's still a spreadsheet or a word processor. It's still under an umbrella term. So I've tried to treat it that way. So people, even if one tool changes or sort of model changes, roughly the vibe of what you can do with it is still there.
Yeah, yeah. And so we'll link in the show notes to the different books and the different bits that Matthew has done. So if you want to grab a copy of them, do, or certainly pre-order some bits as well. But I am quite excited to talk about something that I know has been a passion project for you for a little while, and it's now out into the world, which is the AI Lit Kit. I wonder if you could tell us what what that is, why you've created it, what it's for, and why this as
So
a focus for you.
that came out of Bet. So I went to loads of keynotes with loads of great people and loads of presentations on stalls, and everyone was talking about, and I think it was fresh in people's mind because then the government had just released their plans for the new national curriculum, maybe like a few weeks before, maybe even a day or so before. So everyone was quite fresh about, oh, AI literacy or AI's only been put in computer science. So people were talking a lot about how it needs to be across all the different subjects. And again, I was nodding along because I agree it should be. And there's bits that touch upon all the subjects, and we started to do that in our approach at my school as well. But then I was just thinking, with my teaching and learning hat on in my school, like, how am I going to get my history teachers up to speed, or how am I going to get my maths teachers? That's a lot of CPD, and a school, you know what it's like. You never have just one priority. It's like everybody, we're only going to do this year. And you can't just make everything about AI for a whole year because there's so many other things that need to happen in the school. You can't make every CPD about that for staff. So then I started to write a glossary, and I started work on this thing one night in the hotel when I got back from one of the days. It's a huge glossary of all AI keywords, and then linking that to history, all the national curriculum subjects. And so just to give people, okay, you could talk about this here, you could talk about this here, you could talk about that here. And then I was like, actually, I could probably get it from here to generate some lessons for people. And then I kind of started to build that out a little bit, and it ended up having a bit of a rapper feel to it. And it wasn't really what I wanted, because it just ended up feeling like, here's history, and then let's do a history AI literacy lesson. Here's maths, and here's an AI literacy maths lesson. So I then shifted the perspective of it, and I just thought, hang on, what if I take some of the global frameworks, like what's coming out of PISA, the OECD, and then I added it and expanded it to different frameworks around the world just to tag those in. Or if I just gave it the lesson I was already going to teach. So what if on Tuesday morning, I'm teaching this and that, I give it my lesson plan, and it goes, in that lesson plan, you could swap out this activity and do an AI literacy spin. So I originally started off with a lesson guide where it would give you 4 ideas running from, and there'd be always one, most of them would be unplugged, but there'd be one plugged one if that was possible. And it would just give you ideas. Okay, you're already going to teach this concept or this lesson. Here's what you could do to adapt it. And it gives you like a buffet of options that you can pluck out. Then you select the one you're going to do. It gives you all the resources and things like that, coaches you through it. And I tried to write it from the perspective of, if it was for a cover teacher, if that makes sense, almost like if you were to come in and teach this lesson, it was the best planned cover lesson in the world. What would someone who came in at 0 would need to know to deliver that part of the lesson? So it has coaching notes, questions, things to look out for, the resources for you. And you select that, and then that gets tracked. So over time, you can build up like a heat map of all the standards that you've hit, all the guides that you've hit it with. So you can start to track your AI literacy and how it's been delivered. Then there's one that goes up from that, which is like a topic guide where you can upload pretty much a curriculum map or a scheme of work, and it will give you that over multiple lessons. So instead of planning just one lesson with AI, it's like, okay, across these 7 lessons, you can introduce this topic here, you could circle back to it here, and you could come back to it here. And then the activities that you select, it will then give you, again, those coaching notes, all that information that you need. And I'm working on now a school level where you could get multiple staff running. And then when they tick all those different AI literacy things, which activities they've done, as a school, you can see on your heat map, okay, we've touched upon this so many times in history, this many times in geography, in RE over here, PSHE over here. So you can kind of get a feel as a school where you're at with AI literacy. And then that will then do a bit of AI magic and generate you some government reports, governors reports, and SDP information and things like that. So I'm kind of building up. So there's a lesson guide, which you can go pretty much on what you're going to do. Topic guide, which is very much the same, but expanded out over multiple lessons. So the most I've tried it was like business gave me a scheme of work of 23 lessons, and it handled that and gave me all those links and how to circle back. And then the school level, which is just basically give everyone the option to do lesson or topic, but the school can track it on a higher level of what's going on across all the teachers, all the departments in the school, and track that AI literacy and how it's been embedded.
And the key bit here is it's not like, here's a lesson on AI.
Yeah,
And that's
it's built in.
That's,
it's like it's your lesson, essentially. That was what I wanted in the end, because I was going down that wrapper route and it felt so separated. Where it's like, here is your lesson. Here's a scheme of work. You've already spent the hours on your scheme of work. You've already spent your hours on your lesson plans. You've already spent your hours on everything you've already done. So just, I'm going to teach this next week. Here's my lesson plan. How could I bring some AI into it? And it just gives you, and it's like a buffet of options. And you still, as the teacher in the driving seat, you still select which one's going to work because you know your kids better than I do. You know the kid better than the generation that the activities that it's generated for you. But all those activities are generated by looking at these global standards, especially the PISA one, because they're going to start measuring AI literacy in 2029. So it goes, okay, you're actually in this lesson, if you did this activity, you'd be hitting this standard of exploring AI and at this level. So it's all mapping that out for you. So you can actually see where your AI literacy is falling on the grander scheme.
And also the fact of having that, what's coming with that governance oversight, it'll also show you where your training needs are and where your staff
Yeah, because you'll
development
see
looks like.
some things which are like some of the different shades. So one might be a very light green, and some others might be very dark green. So it might be okay. We've not done any creating with AI. So what could we? Then you might want to go off and do an assembly or get someone in to work with the kids or do a session or a workshop with the kids just to go, okay, we're doing very well on this, but here we're falling very short. Or we've not touched upon that in PSHE or history, and there's some really strong links there. So you could go, okay, guys, are probably you can go to speak to departments and see what's going on. And I'm not saying every teacher and every department should be teaching AI literacy all the time, but it's just going to give you some options where if you think I don't know where this might work or this might fit, here's some options for you, and you might go they don't work for me, but the next time it might, and the next time it might. And it's just giving you. That's right. As an educator, again, I never when I do I've got to do my teaching and learning inset in August, and I'm like, I'm not going to tell you how to teach. I'm going to give you the rules of the school, and then you do what you want to do, like around that, as long as it's within the parameters of what we expect from you as a school. And then that sort of thing. Teachers don't need an AI. That's why I didn't want it to generate them a lesson and go, here's your AI literacy lesson. I wanted it to give it them to be in charge, to give it their lessons, and then for them to select what would work for them.
Yeah, and that feels really, it's maintaining the professionalism of the profession. It's also ensuring that AI isn't a bolt on. It's tied into what you do. It's built into your curriculum area, and that's I like this when you first shared this with me. I thought the way that this is trying to work is trying to ensure that the human in the room is still in control, as we've talked about multiple times, but also that the AI, we can't ignore it, and it's permeating every subject area, every area of life. Therefore, we should be thinking about in that literacy space. But I wonder, so AI literacy is the kind of conversation that you hear a lot of people talking about. Is that the issue? Do you think? Do you think people are illiterate when it comes to AI, or and we need to develop more of that, or is it about this? What do you think?
Because I'm based in the EU, and the EU AI Act uses AI literacy. I think PISA's gone with AI literacy. So I'm going to stick with AI literacy because I think that legally bound. Article 4 of the EU AI Act says that everyone using AI in my school should have a level of competency. So if I give them a tool, I should have given them training that's matched at a level of that tool for everything they need to know about the risks and the opportunities. And that's my responsibility as an employer. It has been now for 2 years. It's just they've not really started dishing out any penalties yet. So you know what people are like. They won't do anything until someone's going to come and tell them off. But yeah, so it's one of those things where AI literacy in my mind is here's something we've asked you to use, or here's something you can use. Take Copilot or Gemini, or if in whichever most schools usually fall into one of those two bubbles. Have your staff received enough training that they're aware of the positive sides and also what can go wrong and how to check that. And most of the tool is giving opportunities and risks. So if there's a lesson about PE, which someone asked me, like, it won't fit in PE. So there's wearables, which I'm wearing now, and sports trackers, different activities that we're doing. And I tried it with some primary school PE lessons, and it worked quite well as well. But there's risks there, okay? There's upside as you can track your health and monitor. My Uncle Jim's got a heart condition. He tracks it all day through his smartwatch. My mum's diabetic. She tracks it all day through a smartwatch. Downside is, where's all that data going? Who's got control of that? So it's having those conversations as well. So I think for me, it's I stick with AI literacy because it's opportunity and risk. And I think AI literacy is probably the baseline level. And then you've got kind of fluency, competency, which build up on top of that. But I think the baseline is if you're going to drive a car, you have some lessons. If you're gonna like think about PSH, I always equate AI as like, yeah, most people on paper should be using it without parental consent when they're 18. Should also be drinking, smoking, doing loads of other things. But we talk about that in school. We don't ignore societal problems or things you might do when you're 18, 21, 30. We talk about them in school because the things you need to know about. You need to know about the opportunities and risks. And I treat AI in the same way. We can't go, oh, well, it's 18 plus. Nah. Like we don't do that with anything else.
No, we don't. Well, we don't, and I think that's that's the answer, isn't it? And you're thinking about in a UK context, they're talking about AI literacy and media literacy from the new 2028 curriculum, and we're going, maybe it's a little bit late, but we know how long it takes for things to become part and parcel of the ecosystem in education. We know, but actually, what you're offering in terms of support here is something that they can start with what you've already got rather than trying to bring something new. Um, I also know that you've done quite a lot of work supporting, and obviously many people who are listening there will be like, well, in the EU AI Act and Article this, and you've spent a lot of time trying to navigate the governance conversation. You don't profess to be a legal governance expert, but you've also done a lot of work trying to grapple with this and what it means for those who are in the EU, but also beyond the EU, and about what governance looks like. So, what drew you into that space? Why did you get into the AI governance conversation? Because I can imagine it's not been straightforward.
Because I've been doing all that governance work with the school anyway. Because when I arrived, the school I'm at now wasn't a British school. And I joined at the point where they decided that they were going to transition from the curriculum and school that they were onto being a British school. So came in and it was basically policy development. And I know policy and culture go hand is a separate sometimes, but it was like we could build these policies up based on my experience in the UK from zero and base them on. And I always want to ground policy in reality, because you can say something, but then you actually got to live it as well. So always working with staff and development. And then I think because I've done so much work in governance in school, and then obviously knowing that even though the EU Act keeps getting like pushed, little key parts keep getting pushed back a little bit because of certain delays and things like that. So, but I wanted to get my head around that. And I think the only way you get your head around it is by having conversations and trying to grapple with it. And I'm fortunate enough now that through LinkedIn, I think I met a really nice lawyer from UiPath Foundation at AIDucation last year. I've met a few nice lawyers that won't charge me an arm and a leg and will have an open conversation with me. If I'm like, I've got a question about this one line and what does that mean? Because I've got to stand up in front of staff, and they've not changed, but kind of strengthened the definition of deep fakes in a new document that came out like a month ago. And it's now a deep fake, isn't it? If I got a picture of you, Ben, and made you talk or do something, it's not just a deep fake. A deep fake could be like any object, so that could be real. So I said, okay, I've got to tell my teacher to generate an AI picture of an apple. Does that classify now as a deep fake? And under the new definition, from speaking to these lawyers, it pretty much does. So I've got to tell them now to label pretty much everything, apart from if it's like a cartoon or something like that. So it's always kind of trying to keep up with these things, not being caught off guard by them, and then trying to have conversations with people who know a little bit more than me. If I'm hitting up against a brick wall, I'm fortunate enough that I know enough people that will be kind enough to give up their time and advise me in an informal way. And again, we work with our DPO and our legal team all the time as well. But sometimes they're niggling. I don't know. I'm one of those people like, if I need to know the answer, and if it's in a grey area, what's the answer though? Do I need to tell the staff it's only pictures of people, or is it pictures of apples count as deep fakes? Like, which is it? Because that's a bit broad. So I just reach out and ask. Sometimes write an article on LinkedIn and tag some lawyers and hope it'll either provoke them to give me the answer that I want to get out of it, or I'll just have an open conversation with them and say very thank you, and then promote wherever their work they're doing and things like that, and pay it back. But it's just trying to explore it and trying to get grips with it.
Yeah, and it's not a static beast, is it? The fact of, I know
It's a
from a legal
thankless task,
perspective,
Ben, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and I also know that From a legal perspective, knowing some lawyers in this space, well, not actually lawyers in this space, but lawyers who are now having to navigate some of this space, going, we've had precedent and we've had case law, we've had this and that, the other, but actually, um, the difficulty is that we haven't. This is moving so fast, and the parameters are changing so fast that we haven't got precedent in the same way. We haven't got legal case, and therefore I think a lot of the lawyers and even a lot of the courts and whatnot are flying by the seat of their pants with the things that how it's being done. That doesn't mean that there isn't government. And interestingly, what I respect about there's lots of things I respect about you, but one of the things that I really respect about what you do is you manage that innovation and compliance pretty well, in the sense that you want to do so. I know many people won't be aware that the voting place that we worked on for Edufuturists, so what the judges did and managing all the nominations, and there were quite a few in that space. The program that was created to do that, Matthew built with us or for us, which we're very, very grateful for. And in that conversation, we were like, right, we need to make sure that we make it something that's easily accessible. It uses AI to summarize this to make it easy for the for the judges and whatnot. But I hadn't thought about things like how do we make sure that we're transparent about that we've used AI in that space? And you remembered and you reminded us, saying, okay, well, we need to make sure that we're using this parameter. And if anybody wants to check and read the full transcripts, that they've got that full like that level of compliance and transparency around like legal, the way legally to do it, crossed over with the innovation and trying new things. And it's like, it's almost like the agency with guardrails thing that we bang on about it has kind of become normalized for what you do there. So we're grateful for
I
what
think
you
it's
do and the way
also
you do
like
it.
ethically what I'm comfortable with as well. Like having where does my moral compass fall? Because we know enough that AI can make mistakes. So do you want someone making a whole judgment based on a summary which could omit something? So you need to give them the opportunity to see everything. And at least, I think we use the AI in that case just to format it into some bullet points or something like that. If it was, lots of people wrote in like free prose, but you've got to give people access to everything. Like it's same as we say you can't trust an AI summary if you give it an article or something like that and you read the summary. Usually I can, if I've read something, then ask AI to summarize it. I'll go, but you've missed that point. It goes, oh, I'm really sorry about that. You just want to make sure ethically that everyone has everything they need to do to make the judgments they need to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we're going to do the quick fire questions. Obviously, it's usually me, then Steve, then me. But I'm going to throw these quick fire questions in to ask you. You may well be aware of what they are, but uh, some people have are prepped for these, and other people go quick fire and
I'm
decide
going
to go
in
quick fire.
blind.
Going in blind. So the first question is: if schools were judged like restaurants by how much customers actually enjoyed the experience, what do you think would change overnight?
I think there'd be a lot more student voice. I don't think we get that enough. Student and parent voice. I think we collect it when we have to once a term because you have to. It's part of it. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but we have to collect some student voice and have evidence of that. But I think we do a lot more of it and a lot more informally than just like a survey or something. I think we really get into the nitty gritty of what people's experiences were.
What's the most dangerous myth that educators tell themselves to avoid real change?
And this not might sound mean, but it's too hard because I think the system is the system, and I get that. But there's like anything, there's a little bit of wiggle room in the system, and you can do a few things. Like I rewrote our computer science curriculum, so it still meets the national curriculum, but it's all project based, fun projects, rubrics over 6 to 12 weeks each project, bringing all the national curriculum in. So that was hard work, but I got that wiggle room to do it, and I think just having the just giving it a go and seeing what happens, I think is my like that's right. To try push up against the edges until you break it.
Yeah. Yeah, good idea. And finally, if a 10-year-old asked you why they have to go to school, what would you actually say?
I know what I'd probably say. I know I'd like to say to have fun and learn cool stuff, but probably now, oh yeah, it's a difficult one. I want to say what I have to say is my kids, but my kids are in primary school, so they're basically having a lot of fun right now. But I think as they get older, I think it's to learn the skills that you need that will help you in your next stage of life. And that sounds very broad, but
Yep.
I think that that's what I don't want to say, because you've got to learn English, maths, and science. And I do agree that kids need and to experience new things, because I do like the fact that kids do maths, music, D&T, because you never know what's going to be your spark. Like if you never got an opportunity to play a musical instrument, I was just watching a little short YouTube clip. I'm going off on a tangent now about the guy who plays the Punisher, and he was on a sports scholarship, so he took an easy drama class to get on his scholarship, and they ended up he had to bring a prop in, and he didn't have one, so he made up a story about his mum giving him a basketball glove and made everyone cry, and he became an actor. And it's that thing, that experience and opportunity. And if like you never might know if you want to be a mathematician or a scientist or a musician or be in a play unless you've had that opportunity to experience that. And I think it's that. And I know education sometimes lowers the playing field too low, but I do like the fact that everyone gets to experience a bit of everything, because you never know where your passion's going to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Matthew, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll put all links to the in the show notes to the books, AI Lit Kit, and watch out for that opening in September or just after, around AI Education in Bucharest in 2027, March 2027,
Yes.
March
March
2027,
2027. Yeah. 13th of March.
30th of March. It's going to be an absolute belter. Looking forward to being out there again with you. Thanks for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast, and
Amazing.
we'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Shaping the next generation, dancing to the rhythm, catching every beat. Together we embrace the futures at our feet. The futures at